Hi, Charles and Andre. It's good to have you here. Very great performance, of course, in the Asian Seven Series and qualifying for that Olympics. And now we're all in LA ahead of Quest for Gold Sevens. Can you just tell us, Charles, first, what was the preparation like since the championship, Asian Championship? Because there's a long break, no tournaments as such, and COVID impacted all of us. So how have you managed all these things come to this tournament in
Yeah, hi, Sabi. It's been a challenge. We just had to restart at the very beginning again and get all the players on board, make sure we had all the right players, and then slowly start the process, and then slowly start educating the players in what we needed to and what was going to be required in order to be competitive at the Olympics. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been fun. There's been some tough times, but I think we all working our way through it and all getting better and uniting and bonding as a team. And we're looking forward to the challenge in the Quest for Gold tournament. And hopefully, we can perform to the best of our ability.
It is indeed, Andre. There's a luxury having you in the Korean team. Not only your physical hits and great tries and your defensive workload, but especially your translation, especially you're combining with Charles.
Yeah, so of course I kind of have two roles. Obviously, the main job first and foremost is to perform. That's my number one job. If I don't perform, I wouldn't even have the opportunity to be next to him and translate. And I think the other job is, rugby is not very popular in Korea. So even though they're good English speakers, obviously there's a lot of rugby terminology and technical stuff. So it's just about getting that message across to the team. Like we've brought someone like Charles who's got all this vast experience and great knowledge, but it's no use if you can't get that message to the boys. So I actually enjoy it because I've been around Charlie so much now. I know what he's saying and know what he's thinking. So, but sometimes if I don't like what he's saying, I just translate something. I just make my own translation.
Yeah, maybe you would understand even his body language doesn't have to speak much, perhaps. Coming to you, Charles, wonderful, again, inspiration, your story, switching from Japan University and getting the invitation and taking Korean team for another level. It's wonderful. You mentioned about the fitness needs to be improved when you spoke to us last, perhaps 8 weeks or so before. How do you reckon in terms of fitness, has it improved, or you're still waiting how your players going to play in these Gold Sevens in LA?
Yes, I think from a fitness point of view, there's always, I mean, all coaches always think the same thing. You can always need more fitness, or you have to acquire it. But I think the players, since I last spoke, have definitely improved. Their game fitness has improved, and we have been working on that element. But it takes time, and it's not something you can push. It's just a slow progress, like just over weeks and weeks. And now the players have sort of reached that level where they need to compete in a game, because we've been playing against each other all the time, but there's nothing like playing against opposition in a real game scenario to test your strategies, and also to test and see how far you are behind or on track with regard to the fitness levels.
How important this tournament that you are going to play? As far as we understand that Kenya, Argentina, USA, and Great Britain team are participating for this, and one of them could be your opponent in Tokyo.
Yes, it's very important for us, because it'll give us a idea exactly where we are with regard to our preparation. And it's an opportunity for the players to test themselves against some of the best teams in the world, all those teams are going to be participating at the Tokyo Olympics. So I think that there's two components, and then if you add in the fitness component as well, and the players competing for spots on the roster to go to Tokyo, which allows the players to actually get stuck in and show what they can do.
It is indeed, yes. Andre, coming to you, where do you see your team's performance? Is there any young bloods coming in, or is there only the senior players who played the Asia Rugby 7 series? How is your strength being in this team? How do you see that reaching for this, specifically for this team?
Well, first and foremost, I think the atmosphere in the camp is probably the best it's ever been. I mean, I think the coaching staff have done a really good job of making sure we're working high. It's a really high pressure environment. Like Charlie said, we're competing for a roster spot. So you would think that might cause some disruption, but actually everyone's just working to the same goal, which is really nice. Since the Asian series, we've gone through a new selection period, so trial matches and over a course of a few months. And Charlie's made it clear that experience and age doesn't matter. It's just what you put the performances on the pitch. So we've actually had a few changes from that Asian qualifier series and brought in some youth, and the guys are gelling really well. And I think we've got a really nice balance of youth and experience. And then I think the important thing this weekend is just to see where we're at. And yeah, just I think a lot of those teams will be competing for medals. So for us, hopefully we can come away from this weekend and take away a lot of confidence. That's the goal for the weekend.
Charles, Japan, of course, inspired all of us finishing fourth. They just missed the Rio bronze medal, losing out to Springbok Sevens. That's, of course, interesting story. So we can learn a lot from that. And South Korea being there is a huge challenge. Could we pose anything significant in the Tokyo 2021?
I think the nature of the game in sevens is, if you do what you have to do, you could pose a threat. I mean, sevens by very nature, anything can happen. All it requires is for one team to be a little bit off and another team to be on, and you could cause an upset. But I mean, there's also another side to sevens, which is the fact that, one mistake will cost you a try. Whereas in 15s, you can make a mistake and it might cost you a try, but you've got like 80 minutes to recover, or like you've got enough time to get yourself back into the game. In sevens, you don't have that time luxury. So everybody's got to be on song. Everybody's got to be ready. Everybody's got to be performing at the highest level. And you can cause upsets in sevens. I mean, I've seen it happen hundreds of times. It's happened to me. So I hope that the players can come out and perform and hopefully cause an upset or two. But we'll have to wait and see. It's not an easy game. And it's a real test of not only his fitness levels, but also skill levels under high pressure. So for me, that'll be the challenge, to see whether the players can perform and be competitive in that environment. And I think anything can happen. That's why they call sevens the ultimate game. It's a game where if you take your chances, you'll end up winning.
Absolutely. Margin for error is so little or so small in the game of sevens. Absolutely. Andre, coming to you, we witnessed that Ireland winning the repechage in Monaco. They had the preparation of almost 18 months. One team or one particular squad competing, and they also were the in fact, were the giant killers in that World Series, which is fascinating to watch. How is South Korea's preparation? We understand, we know the difficulties such as COVID and there's restriction. How was the obstacle that you all faced? What was the biggest challenge in terms of training?
Yeah, well, the Ireland story actually doesn't surprise us, because that team's actually been together for 5 years. And when the IRFU invested into Irish sevens, they actually got promotions 4 or 5 years in a row. So that's been a core group that's been together, and congratulations to them. We look forward to seeing them in Tokyo. And for our preparations, while Korea was quite safe, Korea has been quite restricted. We've taken the COVID very seriously, even though it's we've managed it pretty well as a nation. So actually, we did not, after the LA Sevens last year, 18 months ago, that was our last competition and basically our last camp until about February this year. So we haven't had a lot of time to train together, and and also like healthcare facilities and gyms were closed for most of 2020. So a lot of the first part of this year was actually just playing catch up with fitness before we could even really get into the real rugby. Charles only joined us in April. So, I mean, of course, every nation has had their challenges. We're not going to use that as an excuse, but it's just the reality of the fact. But I think, you know, none of that's going to matter when it comes to Tokyo. We're all going to be on the same field and the same weather. And as Charles says, it's just which team is best prepared and most switched on. And I promise you that we'll be switched on and we'll be motivated to hopefully, you know, do Asia Rugby and Korea Rugby justice.
Charles, as a coach, when the team wins, the team is a hero, and when team loses, coach is a zero. So that is a known. In terms of your philosophy, since you came in April to this squad, what did you add as your philosophy, and what do you see best suits to your team?
I think from a philosophical point of view, you know, for me, it's just trying to create a good environment for the team so they can learn and be successful. You know, that's sort of the way I see it. And the key thing there is the learning aspect. You know, sevens is a simple game in reality, but there's a lot of small components that make up the game that players need to be on song with, and everybody needs to be on the same page. So for me, it was just creating that learning environment, getting the players to understand what is required, making small adjustments and changes in strategies just to make sure that, you know, in order to be competitive at Tokyo, we had to play or maybe learn a different way of how to play. Because the teams that we're going to be up against are all playing a different style, you know, because sevens has progressed tremendously over the last 20 years since the IRB sevens. It's not IRB, World Rugby Sevens. So it just shows you how things have changed. Yeah. So World Rugby Seven Series, when that started in 1999, from that perspective, you know, if you play an old way or old style of sevens, you're just going to get killed. And we have to learn not a new style, but we have to learn a new way to be competitive. And it was just trying to get the players to understand that, and then make sure we got the skills to implement it and the fitness to carry it through for the full 14 minutes. Yeah.
Andre, you mentioned Korea will add justice to Asia Rugby and South Korea Rugby. In terms of South Korea's rugby, you said it's not that popular sport, but there's somewhat a fraternity, rugby fraternity loves this sport. What are the expectations of them, especially Korea playing in the Olympics?
Well, I think the rugby fraternity that you speak about in Korea is very much aware of our conditions and just how late we are to professionalism and modern rugby. So I think within the rugby community, the goal for us is just to be competitive or maybe get that one upset somewhere in the game. But of course, to the casual sports fan, you know, we might be on TV and they won't know anything about our situation or kind of how far behind we were historically compared to the other nations that have really invested into rugby seven. So for us, we have a huge sense of responsibility because I don't think the spotlight will ever be greater or brighter on Korea sevens. And if we go there and we're not competitive, we could lose the interest of you know, Korea is a very sporting nation and very proud of their national team. So for us, it's not only just a responsibility to ourselves, our family, and the rugby community. It's a responsibility to rugby and be in Asia as one of the best performing teams in Asia to go out there and show A, that this region is now ready to compete on the international stage, and B, to the Korean people that you know, we actually have a national rugby team and we can be competitive against you know, developed tier one nations.
Wonderful, Charles and Andre. Thank you very much for your time. On behalf of Asia Rugby, do well and make Asia proud. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.